I think we can safely say that by 1988, Super Mario Bros. Was Nintendo's golden child, yeah? Well, after the blockbuster success that was the first game and an attempt at making a second game, and then having to alter an entirely different game into another sequel because the first sequel was deemed unreleasable outside of Japan, Shigeru Miyamoto and his talented team were set on making the ultimate Mario experience for the Famicom and NES. Indeed, development on the next title in the series began shortly after The Lost Levels was released in Japan, and the devs took the criticisms of that game to heart when making the third entry. The gameplay was updated, the sprites were overhauled, and a boatload of new and exciting content was added to make this game feel fresh yet familiar, and perhaps the most important thing they did was decrease the difficulty from the previous game so that players of all skill levels could have a good time. The game would also really take advantage of the NES and Famicom hardware, and even use a mapper chip to allow for new effects like diagonal screen scrolling, and a dedicated HUD at the bottom of the screen. On October 23rd, 1998, Super Mario Bros. 3 released in Japan, and was yet another hit for Nintendo. God, this is like the 20th one by this point, right? For us Americans, however, we wouldn't get the game for ourselves until February 12th, 1990, but Nintendo made sure that Americans were excited for it. Oh god, I get to bring this up now. How many of you have heard of The Wizard? Well, for those who haven't, long story short, it was a 90-minute Nintendo ad disguised as a movie made in collaboration with Universal Pictures. Well, it's thanks to this movie that Americans got to see the game in action for the first time.
So I give you Super Mario Brothers 3!
Definitely would have had me hyped for the game if I was alive back then. As for how people look at the game today, well, it's generally regarded as one of the best NES games ever made, and some consider it the best 2D platformer of all time. So let's delve into why Super Mario Bros. 3 is held in such high regard. After selecting if we want a one-player or two-player game, we get to see, holy shit, a world map! Immediately, Mario 3 is flexing its new additions to the series. Each world has its own unique map with levels, Wandering Hammer Bros, Toad Houses that can provide you with items and power-ups to help you on your way, and even these matchup minigames for a chance to earn extra lives. Of course, the real meat and potatoes of this game are the levels, so let's head into this game's World 1-1. Mario's control scheme is largely the same as previously, but he has seen some changes when it comes to the minutiae of how he controls. I don't know how best to put this, but Mario feels more fluid with his movements now. Like, in the original and even in the US Mario 2, Mario felt perfectly fine to control, but now it's as if his movements have been better fine-tuned. Not to mention, Mario had to have been hitting up the gym because this man is way more floaty with his jumps than in the first game. While I do appreciate the more floaty jumps, I can imagine this taking some getting used to after the first 3 games in the series had a Mario that was more affected by gravity. Mario can also now pick up objects like these icy blue brick blocks, and even Koopa shells, allowing for more inventive level design than in the first game, the second game, and the second game. I should also mention the HUD on the bottom of the screen. This shows you your lives, collected coins, time remaining, score, and what world you're in like before, but now there's also the P meter that builds up the longer you run for. Lastly, there's these 3 squares on the side, which we'll get to what those are momentarily. Power-ups make their grand return, and everything from the first game is here, along with way more new toys for Mario to play with. You of course have the Super Mushroom, the Fire Flower, and the Power Star, but here in World 1, you can get this leaf that gives Mario a raccoon tail and corresponding ears. This is the Super Leaf, the first of many Mario power-ups in the series that grant the Italian plumber the power of flight. Just max out the P meter and jump to reach heights thought impossible in the previous games. You can also mash the jump button when in the air to float down, making precise jumps less of a bitch. You can also spin around and whack enemies and objects with your tail by pressing the B button. You just can't spam it though, so be wise when doing so. That's not all though, there's also the Tanuki suit, which functions like the Super Leaf, but allows Mario to turn into a statue for a few seconds, which grants immunity from enemies while active. The Frog suit, this thing sucks on land, but in water, it's the greatest thing since I discovered I was a girl. The controls are fucking perfect underwater, which saddens me to say that this is the only mainline Mario game that the frog suit is in. Then there's the king of power-ups in Mario 3, the Hammer Brothers suit. Now you can be the asshole and throw hammers at everything, and by crouching you have this protective shell that can block certain attacks like fireballs from the new Fire Piranha plant. At the end of each level, there's this box that alternates between one of 3 cards. By touching this, we not only clear the level, but we also get the corresponding card inside. Once 3 cards have been obtained, one of 2 things will occur. If all 3 cards are of a matching set, then you will be rewarded extra lives, with the amount increasing depending on the set. Mushrooms will award 2 extra lives, the flower will award 3, and the star will award a whopping 5 extra lives. However, if the 3 don't match up, you're still given an extra life regardless. This game gives you so many opportunities to earn extra lives than in the first games. I mean, seriously, look at how many I had by World 8! Of course, if you run out of lives, you get a game over and are sent back to the start of the world you died in, with all cleared levels now having to be cleared once more. Oh, shit, wait. Getting ahead of myself, I didn't even mention the story of this game. Not like it's important, but it's still worth mentioning. It's been pretty peaceful since the events of the last game, but one day Bowser sends his underlings, the Koopalings, who may or may not be his children, to neighboring kingdoms and has them steal their magic wands, transforming the kings of those lands into animals. Princess Toadstool informs the Mario Bros, who then set off to recover the stolen wands and put an end to Bowser's evil plans yet again. Our journey starts in Grassland, where we have several levels to traverse in order to reach this world's castle. It's a lot of fun and pretty easy to get through. I imagine most people shouldn't have an issue with getting by. We even have this fork in the road to reach this Toad house, so we have 2 level options to reach it. What nice design! If one level is giving you shit, then you could just go try the other. One of these levels, however, starts a tradition that I, to this day, hate seeing in any platforming game. Auto-scrollers. They aren't truly bad or anything, I just hate having the speed of which I can do something being taken out of my control. Like, I can clear these levels way quicker if I just had control over the screen scrolling, but I don't, and therefore I don't like to play levels like these. I think the only time I do like auto-scrollers is if the speed of them is really fast so that I have to be constantly on the move. It gives me a feeling of franticness that then feels rewarded once I finally complete the level. At a Toad house, we get to pick from one of 3 chests that all contain something useful for our quest. These can range from power-ups to items that we can use in the map screen. There's the Cloud, which will let us skip over a level, the Hammer, which can break rocks and open up new pathways, the Music Box, which will put wandering Hammer Brothers to sleep, allowing us to slip past them, and hidden in select spots throughout the game are the Warp Whistles, which will take us to this game's Warp Zone, allowing us to jump ahead to further worlds. Power-ups and items that are required or rewarded to the player are stored in the inventory, which is accessed by hitting B on the map screen. It's a nice way to give yourself an edge when going into a level, or just using those previously mentioned items. Partway through the world, we have our first fortress. These are like the castle levels in the first game, but with way more variety to them in terms of layout. They're still lava-filled, but they sport unique enemies of their own, such as dry bones, boos, thwomps, and, nuclear waffles. At the end of each fortress is an encounter with this game's mini-boss, Boom Boom, who just kinda runs around. Just stomp on his head 3 times and he bursts into this question mark orb that ends the level when collected. This in turn opens up this key gate on the map screen, acting as a shortcut to get to later parts of the world in case we get a game over. Oh hey, the end spade spot just spawned! These are a game of memory where you have to match up a pair of cards to win the item that's on them, although if you mess up twice, then you get booted out. Fortunately, the game carries your progress over to the next time it spawns. When you run into one of the wandering Hammer Brothers that's on the map, you begin a battle with them. Winning the battle will award you an item. Fortunately, it's never more than 2 Hammer Brothers at a time, so I tend to see these as free item pickups. Upon entering the castle, we get a cutscene of a Toad and the transformed king, where we then board the Koopaling's airship. These are auto-scrollers that are jam-packed with these cannons and bullet bill launchers. Seriously, these places want Mario dead. At the end of every airship is a pipe that when entering will take us to a boss fight with one of the 7 Koopalings. Our first opponent is Larry Koopa, who is actually named after the drummer for the band U2, Larry Mullen Jr. He is piss easy though, he just jumps around and uses the magic wand to fire out these rings that are easily avoidable. After defeating Larry, he flees and drops the wand, to which Mario grabs and returns it to the king, who is now restored to his normal form. As thanks, he hands us a letter from the princess, which contains a P-Wing, a variant of the Super Leaf that will give us unlimited flight for 1 level. It's best we save that for later. Onward to World 2, Desert Hill, which is the desert world of this game if you couldn't tell. And yeah, they got level themes now, it's pretty baller. I'm sorry, that was cringe. The difficulty of these levels is definitely more than the previous world, however, it feels more incremental and not like a slap in the face. And is that a fire snake? God, that sun looks so fucking pissed. Who hurt it? And wait, is it? Hey! Jesus Christ! A dino turtle, a dream frog, and now a star? Mario has quite the list of enemies. You know what's interesting? The discoloration on the right side of the screen as you move. I always thought it looked charming. I think it's due to how the game writes sprite data to the screen, but still, it gives this game somewhat of a visual quirk that fortunately doesn't harm the overall experience. Level 5 introduces these bundles of joy. Chain Chomps, apparently inspired by a dog that tried to attack Miyamoto when he was younger. Oh yeah, you can also do this with a Koopa show on this level. It's very loud! So here's a neat secret in this world. If you have a hammer by this point, you can smash this rock at the right side of the map to reach this hidden 3 area that houses a toad house that can provide you with a frog suit for later, and a duo of fire bros that when beaten will award you a warp whistle. So the king of Desert Hill was turned into a spider, and that is just unforgivable, so onto the airship I go to fuck shit up. Oh shit, this airship has a mole infestation. The next of Bowser's kids is Morton Koopa Jr., named after the American talk show host Morton Downey Jr., not to be confused with, you know. He's pretty similar to Larry, however, despite being bigger. Kind of a letdown if you ask me, but that's another magic wand returned, and onward we go to World 3, Oceanside. Oh hey, there's a pipe right here at the start of the world. I wonder where it... God damn it. These pipes on the map act as a means of fast travel on the world map, giving us quick and easy shortcuts to later parts of the map, once we defeat the fortresses, of course. World 3 is the water world of this game that features the returning underwater sections, however these feel much better to swim in thanks to the more fluid controls. You even have these above water levels where enemies like Cheep Cheeps will try to jump out at you if you get too close to the water surface. Some of these levels even have this sinking gimmick. That's a huge fish. That is Boss Bass, a big-ass fish enemy that will not hesitate to... yeah, and Mario's dead. Alright, everyone go home. The fortress here has several doors, where all you need to do is just pick the right one to advance further in the stage. Also, Boom Boom can just grow wings now and swoop down for an attack, so that's pretty neat. At least there's some variety to the Boom Boom fights, that's much appreciated. What's interesting is that this isn't the only fortress in the world. World 3 is when the worlds start to have more and more levels, meaning they'll take a bit longer to get through. Not too much longer, I think World 3 took me about maybe 25 minutes, but it is still worth noting. After taking a warp pipe to reach the castle, which is just straight up on an island that resembles Japan, we head on to the next airship and fuck, crushed by the screen. If you die on an airship, it then flees the castle tile and moves to a random point in the map with you just having to go and schmoove on over to it. The boss of this airship is Wendy O. Koopa, named after Wendy O. Williams, the frontwoman for the band The Plasmatics. Wendy has a different attack with the wand, where the rings she shoots out persist and bounce around the room, which can make jumping on her head a bit difficult if one chooses to get in the way. After beating Wendy, we return the wand to... That is just straight up Mario. That is the same head sprite without the cap. Oh my god, and the castle's on an island that resembles Japan! Mario is the king of Japan! Or that's the third Mario brother, Giuseppe! Whichever suits your fanfics best. World 4, Big Island, which is shaped like a turtle, is host to a very cool gimmick. Everything is huge! It's a really cool gimmick for the world, but it does come with a couple drawbacks, I find. For starters, there's less space for unique and interesting level design when everything is twice the size, and since the enemies are also bigger, that means they have larger hitboxes, meaning this world winds up being easier than the previous two. What's odd is that this gimmick doesn't even apply to the whole world. The fortresses still have normal-sized enemies, which is a little upsetting. Like, could you imagine if the Thwomps were twice as big, or hell, Boom Boom? That would make his repeat fights at least a little more interesting. And did that motherfucker just super jump? Man, the bullet bills aren't even big. They changed direction, at least, so... You wanna know a cool trick? You can get a star card from the end of the level nearly every time if you just come at it at full speed. No shit, look at how many lives I have at this point. I am never getting a game over. So the king was transformed into a Tyson Dino Nuggie. Not much else to say there, but Jesus though, this airship moves so slow. It gives you way too much reaction time that even with all the fire spewing everywhere, this just doesn't feel challenging. Iggy Koopa is next on the chopping block, and goddammit, he's just Larry again! I appreciate that this game has more boss variety than the first game, but it does feel like it's being outdone by the US Mario 2, a game that wasn't even a Mario game to start off with. It's more so of a nitpick of mine, but I still feel it's valid to mention. Anyway, after returning the wand to free the nipple here, we move on to World 5, the Sky. Oh right, Iggy is named after Iggy Pop. Good artist, by the way. I personally recommend The Passenger. So World 5 is pretty much split into two halves. The land portion of the world isn't that different from other land levels in the game. Definitely harder, but nothing unique yet. Ooh, Koopa shoe mine! This is fun hopping around in giant shoe that can hop on things Mario normally couldn't. It's only for this one level, unfortunately, which that just makes me depressed. At the end of the land portion is this tower that we have to climb to reach the second half of the world, which takes us far up into the clouds. A lot of levels up here are over bottomless pits, so I would say now is an appropriate time to use any P-Wings that you may have to fly over these levels. The fucking fortress up here is terrifying. Lots of jumps over lava, and that ain't even mentioning the fact that there is lava on the goddamn ceiling! I wanna know the Mario World logic behind that one! Okay, I have to mention this level in particular. Stage 9 in World 5 can bite me. Diagonal auto-scroller over a bottomless pit with these fire-shooting assholes that pop up at the most inconvenient of moments. Not much to say about the World 5 airship, fortunately. It's pretty standard, just more bullet bills and cannons. Roy Koopa is our next contestant on Who Wants to End Up on the Underside of Mario's Shoe. He's named after American rock singer Roy Orbison, and he will hit the ground so hard that Mario is stun-locked for a few seconds, and this can be a death sentence if you aren't careful and are on the ground when he lands. With Roy defeated, Mario returns the 5th wand to Gandalf the White and moves on to the frigid Iceland. In case the name didn't already tip you off, World 6 features a lot of ice, so prepare to slip around a bunch. Wait, I have the Fire Flower, why can't I melt these ice blocks? I specifically remember Stage 5 of this world from when the Game Grumps played this game a long time ago and thinking to myself that this stage looked like bullshit. You have to get a Super Leaf and take a Koopa Shell up to the right spot in the ceiling in order to leave the level. This took me way less effort than I imagined it would, only further contributing to me realizing that Aaron Hansen just sucks at video games. Ha! The King's a seal. Anyway, the World 6 airship, cold. The fight against Lemmy Koopa is pretty neat. He's on this ball the whole fight and spawns more of them that bounce around, which can make this fight a pretty hard challenge. Oh, and Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead. That's where he gets his namesake. With the magic wand returned to, fucking axolotl apparently, we progress to Pipe Maze, which the map music here... This is what I'd expect to hear in a movie, like a stoner bar scene or something. Now this world's gimmick, get this, pipes. I do fuck with a lot of these levels, however, especially the ones where the screen tracks Mario as he moves through the pipes. That's a nice detail that they didn't have to put in, but they did. I also really like this Nibbler level, where you have to move quick enough with the star power to get to the next one before the juice on the previous one ran out. I'd also like to mention the little spin Mario does when he's jumping while invincible. It kinda reminds me of Samus's Screw Attack. Screw Attack! So Pipe Maze's king was transformed into a piranha plant, which is fitting. The final of the 7 Koopalings is Ludwig von Koopa, who is obviously named after Beethoven. He's pretty much a carbon copy of Roy, which is sad to say that the final Koopaling is nothing more than a clone of one of the previous ones. With the 7th king restored, he hands us our final letter from the princess, except, oh no, Bowser kidnapped her while we were off saving the rest of the kingdoms. Alright, World 8, Darkland, home of Bowser and the Koopa army. We don't have standard levels to start off with. Instead, we have to hop across Bowser's armada, including lava ships, fleets of tanks, and these are hectic. Seriously, we are in Bowser's home turf, and it's clear he wants us stomped out. The next section of this world has these grabby hands that'll drag you into a quick level. Fortunately, I only had to deal with one of these and not 3 of them or all 5. After that is a part of the world with standard levels, where a lot of stuff is thrown at us all at once. Even the Angry Sun returns. And now he's gone. The fucking fortress of World 8. God, I hated this place. Lava and conveyors everywhere. Endless corridors of doors and doors and doors and doors. This took me, no shit, a solid 10 minutes to get through, and Christ, I never want to go through that again. Alright, the time has finally come, and I'm going in guns a-blazing. I saved the Hammer Bros suit just for this so I could...
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Bowser's Castle bizarrely isn't that hard, I find. Yeah, the laser shooting statues can catch you off guard, but other than that, it really wasn't that bad. With all of that, it's time to face the King of Koopas. Alright, Bowser, let's do this! Yeah, so they forgot to program a lower hitbox for Bowser. You can just crouch and never get hit. You have to get Bowser to smash these blocks in the floor and goat him into breaking the ones at the bottom of the screen to send him to his doom, to which I can only imagine him going, "Hey, come on, man, this isn't fair!" With Bowser defeated, the door opens and we save our beloved princess, ending Super Mario Bros. 3. But wait, don't turn off the console just yet, because something cool that this game does is that it actually has a bit of a New Game Plus. If you go and start up a new game after saving the princess, you will have an inventory full of P-Wings. One last thing I'll touch on is multiplayer, which is actually rather fleshed out. Players take turns after completing a level or dying. You both have separate inventories, and if one player gets a game over, then all the levels that they cleared get reset, which I imagine can put some tension in the playthrough. Players can also challenge each other to a match of classic arcade Mario Bros. In an attempt to steal their cards. Like, let's say both of you have a star card. You can take their star card and get a third one in another level to gain 5 extra lives. It's definitely a better system than the first game, and as a result, I would be more than happy to play 2-player Mario 3 with a friend. At the end of the day, Super Mario Bros. 3 does have some flaws, namely its inconsistent difficulty. World 3 is much harder than World 4, World 5 can be just as hard as World 8 with all the damn bottomless pits everywhere, but I feel most of my issues with this game boil down to nitpicks that don't affect the overall experience. I had such a blast playing through this game that it's no wonder why nearly 40 years later, it's still regarded as one of the best video games ever made. And what's even more impressive is that the first game in the series is the classic video game, so if Mario 3 is touted as being better than all of its predecessors, I think that speaks highly of this game's quality. Of course, this game was released rather late into the NES's life, and thus, the next game in the series not only had the job of filling the massive shoes this game left behind, but also bringing Mario from the old 8-bit era into the shiny new 16-bit era. But before that, we have to take a quick detour to the Game Boy for adventures in distant lands. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if that sounds like something you're interested in, and comment your Mario 3 experiences down below, if you had any, and if not, and this convinced you to play the game, then please let me know what you think. I'd love to read what you guys have to say. But until then, have a great day or night. Peace.